I did my project on the Glorious Revolution. So before I can talk about the Glorious Revolution, I need to talk about some background information that'll help make my presentation make more sense. So at this time, around 1688, Protestants and Catholics were really fighting with each other, and since there was a Catholic king ruling England at that time, Catholics were being favored, and the king wanted everyone to be Catholic, which made the Protestants very angry, which kind of leads into the revolution. But the Whig Party is an influential political party, which members are favoring a constitutional monarchy over King James, absolute monarchy. I am going to be talking about King James II. He was the last Catholic king to rule over England before he was dethroned. He had a daughter, Mary II, who was actually brought up Protestant instead of Catholic. He had a son who he said was going to raise Catholic, which caused a lot of people to go into panic. He was extremely Catholic. He wanted everyone to be Catholic, which kind of got him to be dethroned. He was born October 14th, 1633, died September 16th, 1701 in France, where he fled after he was dethroned. Mary II is the daughter of King James II. She was brought up Protestant instead of Catholic, even though her father is Catholic. She was born April 30th, 1662, died September 28, 1694. She died of smallpox. Her husband is William of Orange. She had a conjoined ruling with her husband, so they were both king and queen, and they had an equal ruling. She really loved working with politics, but when her husband, William, was home, she let him deal with the politics. William of Orange is the husband of Mary II. He was the King of England, but like I said in the last slide, Mary and him are ruling together instead of one person. But when they were trying to figure out who was going to rule, William said that he would leave England and would never return if he was not made king. So he made a very big deal out of it. Some major events that caused the Glorious Revolution is that King James II attempted to expand freedom of worship for Catholics, even though Protestants had the majority in England. In March 1687, James issued a controversial royal declaration of indulgence, suspending all laws punishing Protestants who rejected the Church of England. Later that same year, James II dissolved Parliament and tried to create a new Parliament that would agree never to oppose or question his rule according to the divine right of a king. He did that because people were protesting and getting very angry with him with the other royal declaration of indulgence. Also, King James was unpopular because he was very friendly with France. He had a lot of connections over there. Not a lot of people like that. Also, he got into a lot of arguments with the Whig Party over at Parliament. He also wasn't popular and kind of caused the revolution, is that there was an uncertainty over his successor to the throne. The Glorious Revolution was from 1688 to 1698. In 1688, 7 of King James's peers wrote to the Dutch leader William of Orange pledging their allegiance to the prince if he invaded England. William was already in process of taking military action against England, and the letter served as an additional motivation. William of Orange assembled an impressive armada for the invasion and landed in England in November 1688. King James, however, was prepared for this attack and left London to bring his forces to meet the invading army. But several of James's own men, including family members, deserted him and joined William's side. In addition to the setback, James' health was deteriorating, so James decided to retreat back to London on November 23. He soon announced that he was willing to agree to a free parliament, but was making plans to flee the country due to concerns for his safety. In December 1688, King James made another attempt to escape, but he was captured. Later that month, he made another escape and successfully fled to France, where his Catholic and cousin Louis held the throne and where James died in exile in 1701. The Glorious Revolution resulted in the English Bill of Rights that established England as a constitutional rather than an absolute monarchy, served as a model for the U.S. Bill of Rights. Also, English Catholics suffered both socially and politically from the Glorious Revolution. For over a century, Catholics were not allowed to vote, sit in Parliament, or serve as commissioned military officers. Until 2015, the sitting monarch of England was forbidden to be Catholic or marry a Catholic. The English Bill of Rights of 1689 began the age of English parliamentary democracy, not since its attachment has an English king or queen held absolute power. The Glorious Revolution also played a significant role in the history of the United States. The Revolution freed the Protestant Puritans living in the American colonies of several of the harsh laws imposed on them by Catholic King James II. News of the Revolution spurred hope of independence among the American colonists, leading to several protests and uprisings against the English rule. Perhaps most importantly, the Glorious Revolution served as the base for constitutional law, establishing and defining government power, as well as granting and limitation of rights. These principles regarding the division of power and functions among well-defined executive, legislative, and judiciary branches of government have been incorporated into the constitutions of England, the United States, and many other Western countries. No one was against this revolution. Only a few people were against King James being in power, which was kind of led to the revolution. Is the Glorious Revolution a revolution? I think so, because the definition for a revolution is a forcible overthrow of a government or a social order in favor of a new system, and they did exactly that. Also, people's voices got heard, there was a lot of change for the better. So that's why I think it's a revolution.